namaste all. Welcome all to yet another exciting, nice Aarohana session. We got the Aarohana second edition started a couple of weeks ago. Some basic house rules. We have about 40-45 minutes of the session, and there's going to be a 10-15 minutes Q&A. So keep your comments and questions brief, and we will answer all of them. Try and answer all of them, right? I'd like to quickly introduce the panel. As the topic says, it's about defining, creating, and implementing value propositions. I got with me Disha Singh, founder of Zook, and got Rahul Chaudhary, the founder and partner of Stellaris Venture Partners, and Arush Chopra, the founder CEO of Just Herbs. So Rahul has invested in Disha's company, which is Zook, and among other D2C exciting brands. And recently Mariko picked up a majority stake with Just Herbs. So these are all very happening entrepreneurs and investors. And I want to kickstart the session with a quick question to all of them, right? We can remove the slide. Yeah? So my question, to all of you, starting with the lady. So when it comes to defining value proposition and making a compelling offer, what's your starting point? What was your journey? How did you come about arriving at Zook? Could you share a little bit, please?
Sure. So, Vijay, I'll talk first about it. There's always a B school definition coming from the quotables of the world about value proposition. The real world is slightly different, and we have also learned it by doing it, right? I'm not saying that textbooks don't help, right? They are a good base to start off and, think fundamentally, right? But in simple terms, a value proposition is so we look at it as a reason for why a customer has bought your products among all the products which are there in the market, right? It can also be that description that they gave about you, right? Like for us at Zook, it's about, people consider us as, that style plus functionality mix wala bag, which also has an Indian touch to it, right? And that is how actually all of our products are made, right? So it is value proposition is formed when you make your first product, right? And over the period of time, how customers think about it, feel about it, and say about it, most importantly, right? It starts as a description of that exact product and then transforms into the description of the brand itself, right? So now we call ourselves, 100% vegan, proudly Indian, and, we say that we are committed to building stylish and functional product with an essence of India, right? And it has not come from, any definition or, some research and so on and so forth, right? It has come from the product that we have made, and over the period of time, how our customers feel about it, right? So that is how we look at value proposition.
Where did you start and to get here? How many iterations did you have to go through?
Oh, yeah, there's, I think, like the first laptop bag that I have made, if I show you now, you will be like, I don't think so. This is a Zook product, right? It does have a touch and feel of, how it looks today, but it's very different, right? When I started, in my mind, there was just this one thing that, there is this one gap in the bags market, wherein all the bags that are currently in the market are, boring, black and blue looking, and they don't fit the Indian consumer, right? Like most of the female in India wear ethnic wear to office, right? And we don't have anything that, goes along with it or fits with everything that, we wear, right? Plus the functionality, right? Most of the brands were just trying to copy the Western design. So, if you put 5 different brands together and remove their tags, you will not be able to tell one apart from the other, right? So that is the thought process with which I started, right? And
when did you started Zook as a brand? When did you guys?
So the idea came to me in my second year of MBA, right? But I waited it out, thought about it, and by end of 2000, starting of 2018, and this when we started making our product and selling it.
Sure.
Right? So. Yeah. So initial product was, I just had this idea, okay, I need to, modernize this Indian handicraft and make something functional for the modern aesthetics, right? And over the period of time, by talking to our customers, by, taking their feedback. So we started with doing exhibition, like, we make our first 50 laptop bags, right? And I just went to one exhibition and, we were sold out on a weekend, right? And then I kept on doing some exhibitions, and then we realized that, what does our customer want, what they feel about it, what do they like, what they don't like, right? And over the period of time, Zook is what it is today, right?
So who do you define today as your typical Zook target customer or, consumer?
So we are a very woman-focused brand, right? Our TG is anywhere between 25 to 40 years, right? Working woman, she must be working in different sectors. She must have different aspirations. She will have aspiration of being a modern woman, right? We are spread across the country, right? We do have more in the urban area, but that is also changing pretty quickly, given that a lot of tier 2, tier 3 people are also adopting e-commerce and online purchases, right? Because when we have done exhibitions in tier 2, it has done as well as what we have done on tier 1, right? So this is the typical consumer profile of Zook.
Oh, fabulous! Thanks. Hey Aarush, coming to Just Herbs, I'd love to hear about how you guys cracked upon the idea of Ayurveda-led beauty, right? Because Ayurveda has been always with us for a very, very long time. It's come from our grandparents. They've talked about it for such a long time, right? But to sort of scale it up, to make it available, in the range that you have currently, tell us a little bit about your story and how do you went about defining who your customer is and what's the value proposition.
Yeah, sure. I think I personally, believe that at the end of the day, and especially in the category that we are in, the product does matter, right? I mean, because everybody has the access to the same sort of talent pool, same investors, same Facebook, Google, and means of sort of acquiring customers, etc. I mean, talking about the digital world.
Yeah.
One thing that you really can own is the product, right? And for us, it was actually my mother had, she used to do this as a hobby back in the day, in like 2000 and 2014, right? Is when I actually returned to India along with my my co-founder, who's also my wife. And we had kind of used her unlabeled formulations, her sort of homemade recipes, which we really like. And we had just 3-4 of those, and then we came back and we built upon it, right? We didn't do this because it was a very lucrative sector or anything, like Ayurveda is booming, so let's just cash in on that, gold rush. It wasn't that. We really genuinely believed in the product, which is why we decided to work out of Chandigarh, where the product was being made. We wanted to understand and create that supply chain on our own, and the packaging, etc. It never occurred to us that we should go out and get it made from a contract manufacturer. And in the initial years, Vidya, we tried several things, right? So we weren't a D2C brand always. I remember even packing the products in a suitcase and going from one salon to the other, trying to give them demos. And then we learned that the salon industry is very different to what another industry is. Somebody suggested go to hotels and pitch them as hotel toiletries, etc. But it's only in 2018 then we actually realized that we should actually pivot to only the online model, right? So we became a direct-to-consumer company the way Just Herbs is today, around 2018, right? That's how it started. And I think the value proposition from day one was very clear, is that when it comes to beauty products in this country and across the world, you're actually making a very tough choice. You're making a choice between stuff that is natural and perceived as safe, versus stuff that actually works, right? So if you have a wedding to attend, you'll probably go to the salon and say, can I get a bleach done because I want my skin to glow? I don't care if it has chemicals. That's a price I must pay for glowing this evening, right? My point is that what if I made that happen with without that compromise, right? Stuff which is, if made right, natural Ayurvedic stuff can also be very, very effective. And that same philosophy extends to everything that we do. Now we ventured into makeup. So our makeup products are not just, they're not just Ayurvedic and safe and, clean, but they're actually as sort of, glamorous as well as, other sort of makeup brands. Right. So I think this sort of a overarching sort of a theme which runs across the brand, very rooted in Ayurvedic philosophy, but not married to the idea that we want to be a skincare company or a makeup company. We think of ourselves as a full stack beauty brand, right? Which is based on the principles of Ayurveda, which talks about wholesome beauty. So that's how we've kind of evolved over these years. So
awesome. So yeah. No, thanks. That's kind of really useful, right? Coming to you, Rahul, I mean, you would have seen hundreds and, if not more, of business plan, people, entrepreneurs pitching to you. Given the context, you invest both in B2B and B2C brands. What strikes you most, and what do you look for? How do you evaluate, the sharpness and the validity of the customer value proposition?
So the way, at least and maybe I'll just take a step back. At least in our mind, there is no constant value proposition. When somebody starts, they have an hypothesis, and this could be a physical product, it can be a consumer app, it could be a software, whatever it is, right? You have an hypothesis, you build something, you show it to your customer, take feedback and evolve it, right?
Yeah.
So that's a cycle that is required, and it is a continuously evolving cycle. As in what Zook is today, it will be a very different brand 3 years from now. You typically have seen brands start with more functional value props. So we invested in Mamaearth, stood for clean, toxin-free beauty. Today, everybody is clean and toxin-free. There is no differentiation as far as cleanliness or toxin-freeness is concerned. Everybody talks about it, right? So today they talk about goodness inside.
Yeah.
So there is an evolution that happens. And when we look at companies, we basically look for what is the value prop today, and does the founder have an ability to figure out how that evolves over a period of time. In product companies, especially in consumer brands, most of the time, the product itself may not have any IP, right? That physical product can be made by
anybody else.
Some effort can be made by somebody else also.
Yeah.
So the brand value props become even more important, and clarity on that is super important, because then you build the products around it. So I've seen a lot of brands where you go deeper into their, the 5 main products. One will stand for something else, some second product stands for something else, and then there is no consistency that consumer is hearing about that brand. And that can get confusing, as in you may do well on those products, but over a period of time, can you sell more? Can you sell different kind of stuff to that customer? It becomes harder. So at least in consumer brands, physical product companies, we do look for, do founders have a view on what the value prop is, and can they evolve the value prop over a period of time? So that learning agility is very important.
How much of your sort of validation comes from going digital rather than being the traditional sort of retail model? You feel digital is the new game changer? Is Indian market ready for it? Because is that a differentiator in your mind when you're making an investment proposition?
Yes, it is. And there are multiple reasons. One, it is more capital efficient. If let's say Zook or Mamaearth or Just Herbs, if they were to become wherever they are, if it was only offline retail-based business, first of all, you have to be in multiple locations. You have to deploy your inventory there. You have no touch with what customer is thinking, wanting change, a difference in, let's say, where should the shoulder strap go? You have no idea. It is then there is a third-party research that you do. So there is no data you get. And it is very hard to iterate. Once you have launched 1,000 SKUs out there or whatever inventory out there, you better sell that before you start with the next batch. So distribution, product creation, iteration, there are so many places where online, is a significant jump from what an offline distribution first companies do. Now, I'm not suggesting that doesn't mean you don't go offline, but I think just like in SaaS, where first $10 million revenue can be built by selling remotely from India, similarly in consumer brands, a significant chunk, and based on the space, I've seen companies which are now doing $100 million of revenue online. to maybe first 10 million, but you can very easily much easily get customer value proposition established, brand established before you go offline. The other advantage of doing it in a step manner is, today, if you want to go offline in any good retail store, there is listing fee, your ability to get the right shelf and all is very hard. Once you are a brand established in the minds of online audience, then you can much easily get into offline retail as well. So there are a lot of reasons why we feel, the business, online first approach makes more sense. Now, there are categories where it is very hard. So if you're selling a chips packet, right, or an aerated drink, it is costly to ship it compared to the AOV you are getting or the cost of shipping itself. In which case you can't do anything. You can be in online grocery basket. So you can be on Big Basket, you can be in JioMart and Flipkart grocery and Amazon grocery. But that is still small. You still need to be in at least some specialty stores to understand and to create scale. But that is more category specific. But wherever possible, if there is enough AOV and gross margin, I would any day suggest be online first. It also allows you to serve very niche audience. That's the other challenge with offline, right? So unless you are
in India, the niche itself can be really big.
Yeah, and niche can be big, but somebody in Northeast or somebody in a small city may want a Zook bag, but if Zook has to service it through offline retail, then they better be in that area. They have no idea where that demand will come from, but online allows you to measure that as well.
So are you particularly looking for category creators, or are you looking for somebody who's coming in an existing space and then there is a bit of tailwind to it?
See, most of that, and again, it's a definition of, what is category.
Yeah.
If people are not buying bags, there is no point trying to be the category creator of bag. They should be spent on bags for Zook to exist, and they should be spent on beauty for Just Herbs to exist. Now, within beauty, if there are 5 different brands in Ayurveda doing clean beauty, then if you're the 6th company, then it is harder. So that differentiation is important, that you better be early mover in trends that customers are going to latch upon, or hence you can ride on that wave. So that fine balance is very important when we look at companies, that are they riding on the consumer trend and are they early movers?
Right. No, thanks. That's useful. Coming back to you, Disha, Rahul made a great point about how, the value proposition also evolves and changes, right? So, you could be a gateway to many other things to happen in future, so to speak, right? So if I were to sort of, ask you to, share a bit of your vision in terms of how do you want to shape the Indian market, or where do you see, Zook going in about 5 years' time? What would be your sort of thoughts?
So, Vijay, as Rahul was saying that, what are we today might be very different from what we will be 3 years down the line, right? But because that will depend a lot upon how we are growing, and we as a company has always taken a lot, like our customer feedback. One thing, like as Rahul was saying, that we have benefited a lot from being D2C, right? Like for us scaling up, because we sell majority via our own website and now getting into marketplace as well, has really helped us, iterate faster, get customer feedback. And in fact, few of the categories that we have recently launched, like a backpack we launched a few months back, and it was all because, our customer was asking for it, and a lot of inputs about that particular product came from our customers, right? And it was an instant hit, right? So it has really helped us scale a lot, being a D2C. And sorry, to get back to your question, that how do I see Zook evolving in the next 5 years? So we believe that, we want to be that company who stands for, making stylish and functional products, and it can be in this category, it can be in a lot more and a wider lifestyle category, right? And have an essence of India. So if you look at our product, it's not like we don't only make products which are from India, like it's not only made in India, but it also has that sense of Indianness in it, right? But at the same time, we are very modern, right? Like our bags and the functionality and everything which goes into making our product is very for the modern sensibilities, right? And these two key elements we will pick out, right? And that is how we will be building our other categories as well, right? And of course, in the journey, we will keep on taking feedback. And, now also we do a lot of surveys on our social media, like Insta and Facebook. And we have a very, evolved customer base on Instagram. In fact, a couple of days back, Sanjay pinged me and he said that, one of his friend was saying that, they want to compliment Zuka content writer because, she feels that, Arjanta really understand women, right? The content that we put out, right? And that really made me very happy. And, so people are very connected, like the consumer base that we currently have and want to build on is very, connected to what we do, right? And we will be taking a lot of their feedbacks, what all different things, they want from us, and their pain points and so on and so forth. And it's, as a founder, it's our responsibility to convert those pain points and suggestion into a product, right? And that is how we will be evolving in coming years.
So if you were to sort of break it down, this entire value creation product, he was talking about constantly being in touch with consumers, taking their feedback from social media. Do you also see what everybody's talking about is a social commerce model? Do you think time is right for something like that for you guys, or do you think people still have to come to your website and order, or wherever they see a product and an ad, they could order? What works for you?
Vidya, we have, as I was saying, since our inception, we have mostly been D2C, right? We have directly interacted with our customers, and that has really helped us not only understand our customers, but keep on improving our processes, right? And that is not only in terms of the products that we make, right? Because, when you are a brand, you are not only a product company, right? You have this whole process from your, discovery phase, say your website, to your order processing, say the first time the customer sees your product, and then the long-term usage of that product, right? So there are so many different points at which, different people from our company interact with our customers, right? And at each point, we have to ensure that, they are adding value, right?
Just a quick question, Kurt, to ask. Are you also sourcing any from the Artisan clusters, or it's entirely, you have your own research and design team and you guys are productizing it? How does it work? Or you engage with the Artisan community?
Artisan in our case, Vidya, are the people who make the bags, right? Bag making process is a very handmade thing. Like there are automated bit to it, right? But quite a lot of it is handmade. So when we say artisans, those are the people who make the final product. Right. The design process and everything is done by us, which is in-house, right? And our production is also in-house. So, in fact, we have got people from Dharavi and, we have upscaled them and we have got them in better working conditions. And, now we have our own setup and, they are the ones who make our final products.
What is your current sort of range of products? Like from what is the minimum price and what's the maximum price that you have?
Yeah. So, Vidya, we have three main categories currently, right? We have bags, wallets, and accessories. So bags, we have office bag, which is one of our best sellers, right? Which is a bag wherein for females who, can also have laptop and has ample space for almost everything that a woman carry on a daily basis, right? Which is a very difficult task to achieve, right? And we have laptop bags, hobo bags, sling bags. So we have a different bags for different occasions and functionality. Then we have, different kinds of wallets, big wallet, small wallet, a wallet which can fit your phone and so on and so forth. And then we have a smaller category, which is, pocket wallets and eyewear cases and pouches and so on and so forth. So this is the range that we have. We start from anywhere, a small pouch at $649 to, our backpacks run at, 2,500 types.
Oh, wow. Very nice. I'll come back to the marketing part of it. I just want to check with Aarush, his thoughts around, in this whole value creation process. Aarush, initially you might have started with a limited range. Today, you straddle across the entire sort of personal care space, I would imagine, right? Tell us about, walk us through in terms of how did you go about, deciding and prioritizing what are these sort of segments that you want to go after? And how did you go about deciding, what your product needs to look like and, whether it needs to be of a certain fragrance, or needs to have a certain texture, right? Like, so just break it down for us, right? Because did you depend on, was it entirely digitally market research, or did you go out and do surveys, or did you look at how the competition and the landscape itself was changing? Share with us.
Vidya. So basically what happens is that our industry, the beauty industry is notorious for being, very trend driven, right? It's very formulaic, right? If something works for somebody, then everybody must launch a product with the same ingredient. Right. Or when you're researching ingredients, all you're looking for is, search volume on Google and search volume on Amazon, and then you launch a product to that. Now, what happens with that is that you're actually creating more of the same, right? So it comes down to your mission, right? Why do you exist? Why do you want to do it? And for us, it's always been that we want to take Ayurveda, which is a very old science, as you talked about it, and many people have attempted Ayurveda in their own ways. And we want to be the torchbearers of taking Ayurvedic beauty to the next level for the millennial consumer. Right. When we do that, we open up a completely new world, right? Where the very definition of beauty is only changing. Definition of beauty does not exist in silos anymore, right? The lines between what is makeup, what is skincare, and what is ingestibles is changing. Beauty is no longer a topical concept, right? To have glowing skin, you better be doing yoga as well as applying a topical cream. So the whole concept around beauty is changed completely. Right. But how did we know that? We got to know that because we were one-on-one with our consumers, right? So right from day one, 2018, when we pivoted to be a D2C brand, just like Disha, we were also selling first through our own website, which is, a challenging task because it's easier to kind of get some sales going on Amazon, etc. before you start on your own platform. But we did the other way around. Even today, our own website is our biggest sort of channel for our revenues. In that process, we noticed that we are getting to be one-on-one with the consumer, right? And we thought, how should we take this to the next level, right? So, of course, many D2C brands do, feed into comments, etc., read comments and see what's going on, listen into conversations online. But we thought, let's make this a proper process, right? Let's get this going. So I think in 2017, we asked our community. So we have a community, a closed group of, the diehard Just Herbs fans who've shopped for more than 2 times on our website. They get invited to be a form of part of a closed community where we ask them, guys, what is the next product we should be working on? Right. And the answer was that, look, you guys, why don't you make something which I can, apply on my face when I go to office because I don't have time to do makeup. It shouldn't be kicking up on my face. It should look like, I have glowing skin whilst actually I'm just wearing something very light. And because you're Just Herbs, it better be Ayurvedic and clean ingredient. So so like Rahul said, no extra marks for that, but it has to be very functional, etc. So we said, great idea. No, we never thought about this because we were a skincare company all along, right? And just like everybody else, we were also thinking in terms of being skincare. And every time we thought makeup, we were like, no, wo to makeup Ayurvedic to ho hi nahi sakta hai, wo to makeup hai, right? And the customer demanding that. And I'm like, okay, so what's more important? Listening to the customer and giving them what they want, or trying to fit into a box because the world looks at the industry that way. So we chose the first, which is listening to the customer, and we started work on it. We looked at Ayurvedic texts, and the idea was that if we can move from bad smelling sesame oil to luxurious smelling creams, then why can't we be the company which pushes the envelope to make India's first Ayurvedic BB cream, right? Which we did, which was called the Herb Enriched Skin Tint, where we made 5 prototypes and shipped them across the country. And our customers responded beautifully. They're like, this is the first time ever a beauty company has actually heard us and created something that we want, right? And not pushed ingredients onto us, things like argan oil, etc., which are not even Indian, which coconut oil can very well do. Instead of a top-down approach, somebody has actually taken the bottom-up approach of listening to the consumer and trying to create what they want. We did that the first time, and it was more like a flash in the pan, right? And the second time we did it, we got a better response, and we did it the third time, and finally during the pandemic, it was like we took it to the next level, right? So on the 31st of May, we launched our biggest crowdsource ever, which is are lipsticks made from ghee and sesame oil, right? Which had a tremendous response. And when everybody was saying that makeup is not going to sell now because everybody's going to wear a mask, this is among our best sellers, right? So,
so how do you define saying that, there are existing formats, lipstick as a format, right? Everything has got a certain presentation format. When it comes to product innovation, right, which I think could be the key differentiator, how do you sort of crack upon that? Because fusing Ayurveda and beauty is one, but delivering it in way, getting people excited about new fragrances or usages, like the ghee stuff that you mentioned. You think Indian consumer is ready for something like that?
Well, clearly, because I think that's where what Rahul said, that we don't want to be category creators, right? There have to be people out there who buy lipsticks. Now, the point is that what is it that they're not getting in the lipsticks that they currently have? And it might sound frivolous, but in beauty, I think even the smallest issues are like big enough problems to be solved. Like the fact that I don't have a shade to suit, I don't have a pack of lipsticks with shades to suit multiple dresses is a beauty problem that needs to be solved, right? And somebody's got to solve it, right? Or the fact that, I have to choose between, something which is effective and something which is free from harmful chemicals is a problem that needs to get solved. So product by product, it's a different problem. Like we launched a makeup remover, which is an Ayurvedic micellar water, in India's first again, which uses tulsi and triphala jal, which is so a micellar water is a French formulation. Can we give it an Ayurvedic twist, and unlock like a new uncontested market space there, which, and that product then becomes iconic, right? It has its own set of people who keep using it over a period of time. And there you not
when you make these decisions, it's a bit of a risk also, because there's going to be a certain amount of investment, right? So how much of is experimentational thinking that is,
so I would say
in your culture and DNA,
so I would say that there is a risk, but the risk is mitigated to a huge extent because the ideas are coming from consumers, number one. Number two, we do prototyping in this process where, people actually receive products and then they grade those products. So even before the final product is launched, right, from the idea creation to sort of testing the first batch of products, we have real people giving us feedback. Rather than, having paid sort of respondents in market research surveys and all. I think that's when you really set yourself up for failure. So I think out of the 5 products that we created this way, 4 of them actually continue to be, among our best sellers, among the top 10 products contributing to sales. And some of them have actually, we've had multiple, for example, the BB cream that I talked about, when we created it, it was in only one shade. Over the past 4 years, we continued to kind of get feedback on it. And we now have 12 shades in it to cater to almost every possible skin tone in the country. So it's an ongoing iterative process using the internet, using social media, which I think is the essence of being a direct-to-consumer brand.
Oh, nice. Thanks for sharing that. Rahul, I mean, in listening to Aarosh and, Disha sharing the thoughts, I just want to pick on your brains in terms of how does the investor sort of measure progress, right? In terms of how do you go about evaluating pricing, right? And then this whole product mix, right? What do you think is an investor's role? Is it like, are you constantly involved in evaluating them and offering feedback? Where do you sort of weigh in and chip in?
The less investors are involved, better it is for the founders, I would say.
I'm sure you're going to get a lot of hearts from the.
No, I'm serious. As in, I find investors who, at least, let me take it back. I feel if I start providing that input, there is something wrong with the team that we have backed. So I would rather trust their judgment. Obviously, if there are questions that come up, it is worth asking. But at least I don't feel that I would even have a view on, or would have a proper view that founders should consider on things like pricing. We do look for, is there a pricing ladder you're playing in? So are you a mass pricing kind of a product? Are you masstige? And because that just gives a sense of because brand has 2 elements, right? The value proposition and pricing, both of them go hand in hand. So price ladder that you're playing in is important to understand what kind of brand you're likely to build. If you go too premium, it also gives a sense of scalability of the business. So it's more a future discussion on, starting from here, but where do you think, and as a VC, we want to scale, as in it need not be a desire for every founder. But if they're partnering with us, then we do want scale, and that is where the discussion happens as to future scalability. Will it come from multiple categories? Will it come by going up and down the price point? Will it come by multiple geographies? There are multiple dimensions to scale, right? Pricing is one of the many dimensions in which you figure out how up and down can you go to capture other segments of the market. There is a segment that buys at certain price. There is a segment that doesn't buy at that price.
Right. So, I just want to throw open this question to all of you, right? How much of it is language? You think language change, going into regional language, will it open up the markets much more? Will the growth be faster? Any thoughts?
I can go with that. I think I personally think in India we have this massive opportunity of having so many regional languages. I see it as a major opportunity because you have the ability to speak to the consumer in the language that they understand best. And if you're talking to somebody in their own language, it creates trust. And when something looks trustworthy, you're more eager to try it and buy it. And I think even with influencer marketing, I think regional influencers definitely is something which is very, very interesting that's happening at the moment. Whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram. So definitely.
Would you say how would you classify your consumers? Are they predominantly spread across India? Are they skewed towards a particular region?
No, I mean,
they're all women products. But
No, so I think we are a unisex brand. Women happen to be, bigger buyers of our products than men, but we've never claimed ourselves to be a women-focused brand, though. But our consumers are spread across the country. Of course, the Delhis and the Mumbais and the Bangalores, because of being metros, get a disproportionate share and in the top 3-4 highest selling regions. But beyond that, it's all a mixed bag of smaller towns, tier 2, tier 3 cities. So it's pan India really.
Right. Disha, what do you see? What's your view on this? Because whenever we keep talking about brands in India and communication, political parties, they feel going regional makes a big difference.
So I totally agree.
Any thoughts, views?
So Vidya, I totally agree with Arush, right? Like there's a huge opportunity, right? And it's like talking to them in their language is comfort. Second is many a times these people are, they will understand the product. Like for example, in YouTube, right? We will a lot of brands does regional influencer marketing, right? Where like from Kerala, they'll be speaking that particular language and explaining the product, right? So a description can be given in the language of their comfort, right? But they are comfortable placing the order, right? They understand कि add to cart hai, ye check payment hai and all those things, right? But to understand, like, they might not be so fluent or, that detailed description and everything they might not be reading, right? So that way you can have a mix of these two things and really help these people, buy online, right? And second is like, as Arush was saying that, tier 1 though is there only, right? Because modern consumers very comfortable buying online, right? But because the internet penetration is increasing, right? And I feel that there is an aspirational cohort which is also coming up in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 who want these kinds of products, right? So if it's given to them and in a language that they understand and so that they can understand the product well, right, there's a huge opportunity for us. Like in fact, we do get a lot of orders from South India as well, right? Like Kerala, Tamil Nadu and so forth, right? And in fact, we will be getting from like chota cities which even I have never heard of, right? And so I personally feel that there's a huge opportunity tapping into the tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? If we give them the correct mix of comfort in buying plus the right product that they're looking
at. Right. No, thanks. That's really helpful. Before we sort of open up to the Q&A session, Rahul, I just wanted to ask you, what would be your suggestion to somebody who's thinking about cultural entrepreneurship or being a cultural entrepreneur and generally cultural economy as a space? What's your take and what would be your sort of advice on the space itself?
So again, very specific to the company that we talk to, the advice might change. I would say overall, there is a very strong undercurrent and trend amongst customers of going back to roots, right? It can be healthy food or whatever was our, eating coarse grains, eating fresh stuff, going back to Ayurveda. You go across categories, food, fashion, beauty, home, nutrition, like again and again, we are seeing that trend. And that's an advantage we can actually export from India also. So it need not only be restricted to serving India as a demand, but maybe global demand as well. So at least we are quite positive. It will be very hard for a global brand to capture that demand, which also gives an advantage to an India originated brand. So overall, quite positive. I think that the point, I think, and maybe, I like to point out what Aarush mentioned, this notion of finding what are you serving. I think this fact that I want not only skincare, but beauty along with that. It looks so obvious, this fact that I want Indian looking, but modern design bag.
Yeah.
When mentioned, it looks so obvious, but it is a very deep insight, right? So figuring out what is that deep insight or deep consumer, demand that you're catering to. That is more important, irrespective whether you're building a cultural brand or not. But I would say that mix is what makes, at least, or hopefully will help the company stand out. Because you will not be the only company in that space, right? Like everybody understands that this demand exists. So there will be 5 players who will do the same thing. So how do you figure out your differentiation?
Yeah. So just one quick follow-up question on this. Like when you look at the typical retail brands, like and the digital native kind of brands, what is the big difference that you see, in terms of how they organized, work culture, the kind of people, recruitment, what kind of talent you get, generally in terms of how they organized, right? Like what kind of differences that you see, when you spot a D2C only kind of a brand, a digital native brand, as opposed to a typical brand which has also got foot soldiers and building retail stuff, etc. But what all kind of similarities or differences that you see?
So I if I compare a traditional brand versus an online brand, one, I would say their understanding of online marketing and demand generation from the online world. Versus a traditional brand, the main focus or the set of people who are important are going to be more people who understand offline sales and distribution. Whereas, and this needs to come almost at a founder level, right? And I remember when we met Disha for the first time, she was saying like, I run digital marketing for Zoop. And I was surprised. I think that was too unusual. Typically, you will have founder plus 1 or 2 people doing that. But having that online first mentality of, what is the right marketing message, what is the right product, what price point is selling, the whole notion of how the margin get distributed. Are you optimizing for shipping? So, things like when the bag goes in a box, you can make a big box which will consume volumetric weight, which means shipping goes up. Or you can put something inside the bag and make sure it is still compactly packed, but does not, come folded when it lands in consumer hand. Now an offline first brand will not even think about it, right? But you are now thinking from a consumer who's receiving the product via courier bag. So there are a lot of those things that tells you whether this company is even thinking online first or not. And then future, the disadvantage of online is the space shelf is unlimited. So you are not the only one who will do it. 5 more companies will do it. So being paranoid about how do I continuously keep on evolving? How do you become more and more important consumer life? So you can never be relaxed in that manner, right? How large you are. And that is the other thing that one looks for in founder, that are they thinking, that means hiring for future. It may mean that you have to invest today for tomorrow. Those are at least the intent that we look for when we look at those founders.
Typically, what do you think is the marketing budget of a digital-only brand to a retail offline brand? Do you see any differences in terms of?
I think online first brands will end up spending more on marketing because they spend less on distribution.
Okay.
So, so if I'm selling from my own website, I capture the whole MSP. In offline world, I give it to a distributor who then sells it to a retailer who then sells it to a customer.
Right.
So if you think from final consumer payment point of view, there is a significant cut that you've given to the distributors and the retailers.
Okay.
So and again, each category will be different because margin profiles in each category are different. But at least let's say if you're earning 60-70% gross margin, I won't be surprised if you're spending 30% on marketing. In digital.
Wow, thanks. So Aarush, this specific question for you. What do you think of your competitors like Forest Essentials? How do you place your brand in the market against competition?
No, I think that's a good question. I think we have a lot of competition, right? Beauty is a very competitive market, a lot of brands out there. So we basically don't think of competition as such, right? Our endeavor is always to make the competition irrelevant, right? And that's what we try to do.
Yeah.
Either we do that through looking and imagining our products in a completely different way, right? And I gave some examples on this chat. And I think so the differentiation should begin in your own head, right? And what is a differentiator today will not be a differentiator 3 years from now. So you've got to be constantly on the ball. To give you an example, in 2014, when I started, being paraben free was a novelty. Today it's hygiene, right? I mean, you better be paraben free. Nobody gives you any credit for being a clean beauty brand. So that's not it can't be the reason that we exist today, right? Along the line, we discovered, how we crowdsource our products, etc., like, 3 years down the line. So we'll have to be on the ball, right? Have an overall arching mission or a reason to exist, and then keep executing day in and day out with the consumer in mind. I think that is what, that is one way of, staying ahead of the competition, at least in our industry, is what I found.
Yeah. Disha, what are your thoughts in terms of competition? If you were to, this Chumbak, right? And then there are other brands from Fab India, etc. How do you position yourself compared to the other sort of established brands? Or seeing your success, there are going to be future new entries as well, right? So how do you sort of position yourself?
So we'll again completely agree with Aarush, right? We don't see competition as like, we don't look at it, or we do, of course, closely see what everybody else is doing, right? But we as a brand don't exist because of or in spite of the competition. It's all like, so at Zook, we have a very key value that, we feel that we have to gear up for change always, right? So if it's a changing landscape, is it user behavior, competition, regulation for that matter, right? Like it's a part and parcel of building a enduring brand, right? And that is what we are here for. And, like any change that comes along our way, we have to be ready for it. And, we should always be innovating and keeping our customer at the center of it is what, is going to make us a big brand. And that is how, generally we think about everything that we do in our company. So, yeah.
So one question that popped up was that, when you have a D2C brand, you're also on marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, and others, and you're selling it through your own website, So how do you, maximize traffic to your website, right? What is the working for Zook? What are your thoughts in terms of what your category or D2C brand should be doing?
So see, we started directly selling from our website as like Aarush. We are also majority of our sales happens on our own website, right? And I feel there are a lot of perks in customers coming to our website and buying from it, because when you first control the whole customer experience journey, right? And also you get a lot of learning and feedback on the way, right? There are different reasons why a consumer will go to a marketplace rather than your website. Like maybe Amazon, I have an Amazon Prime, ye kal deliver ho jayega, right? They must be giving good offer, something or the other, right? So there is a different value prop, and like initially you have to build your brand. Like when we started on D2C, like our own website. Over the period of time, when we when we have scaled to a certain level, we also started investing in marketplaces, which has given us a wider reach in a shorter time. Right. So you can look at your website as of course, a revenue channel, but also as your brand building plus, buying that customer loyalty wala bit, right? And marketplaces can give you that wider reach, right, to scale faster, right? So both of them, apart from, of course, scale, these are the two different value prop these, D2C over marketplaces bring in for any brand, right? And we should use it, accordingly for your brand, right? And whichever part of journey you are in.
Aarush, your quick thoughts.
Yeah, no, great. I mean, I think I couldn't have said it better. I think just want to add to that the one clear advantage of driving traffic and sales through your own website is that you become very data rich as a company, right? You can do all sorts of analyses on your customers. You can look at various cohorts. What products are working better, which are more sticky than the others, where are the drop-offs happening, and basically, you learn how to kind of improve your product, etc. also better, which is missing on the marketplaces, right? The marketplace business is to some degree it's like the old sort of the old retail business that you don't have touch with the customer. So I look at it that way, but then it's very important though, after you hit a certain scale, you must exploit that channel as well, because that's where most of the consumers are there already for you. And Amazon, for example, is almost like the next Google now, right? So can't be ignored. But I think there is a very important role that your brand's own website plays, because that's where your brand lives. It's where somebody comes and experiences the soul of your brand. So that experience is very important.
No, so true. So one question that's come from one of our Aarohana business plan finalists, Subhashish, who is a founder of a very exciting brand called Nutty Fox. His question is having multiple SKUs or products, do they help in stickiness on your brand, your website? Is it a deterrent to have only one product offering with multiple?
I think it should help in stickiness. Like if you have multiple products and you're able to cross-sell, it's a great thing here. But having one product is not a deterrent in that sense, but I think having more products at least gives you a chance of showing something to somebody, right? So
and the price points also, right?
And a different price point. So if somebody's bought a shampoo from me, and if I can offer them a hair oil, then great, and then I can offer them a conditioner also, and then a hair serum also, and a hair mask also. That's great, if I'm able to do that. To that extent, having those SKUs in your mix definitely helps.
Oh, right.
Yes, I think it is a high frequency builder also, as in there are a lot of categories the customer will not come back to you for another 3 months.
Sure.
So by having multiple, it will allow the customer to come back to you for different reasons.
If you have a bigger product mix. Right. So Rahul, one quick question is, in the tech world, at least there is a lot of saying that, you need to have at least 2 co-founders, but we're seeing an era of solopreneurs, right? A lot more, particularly in D2C brands, right? How do you, I don't know if Disha's got a co-founder or not, but I'm just saying that.
I have a co-founder.
Okay, cool. So how do you as an investor view this, a new phenomenon or a dilemma? Because, there are so many solopreneurs that are coming. Do you see it as a matter of risk, or how do you view it?
Interestingly, and we will have to do this analysis, but I don't think we have seen a very distinct difference between solo versus multiple co-founder within tech or consumer brand businesses.
Right.
So at least my recollection, it is quite common in D2C brands also for multiple co-founders. What I've seen, and the examples are with the other 2 panels, that there are a lot more husband-wife combination,
right,
in consumer brands. For me, a single founder versus multiple co-founder, basically multiple co-founder or single co-founder, single founder, the challenge is you are the one where the buck stops, and there is nobody, like you are more alone than 2 co-founders are.
Right.
Right. So then what we do look for is, are they able to gather around next set of folks who can help them complement their skills. The advantage of 2 or 3 co-founders is that hopefully they complement each other the day they are starting.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that's the only difference. But that's true for brand versus tech, as in there's no difference there.
Right. Right. So, Disha, any future plans of getting into personal care category, skincare category?
No comments. I don't know. No comments.
All right, no problem. I'm just putting you on a spot.
Yeah, you have put me on a spot, but not in the near future.
Yeah, Arush, what do you think? I mean, this whole movement, you have product mix, people come for different reasons, but catering to one particular look, is that the responsibility of only fashion apparel brands, or even personal care brands can take that?
Sorry, catering to what? Sorry, I didn't get the question.
A particular full look, entire look, right? Because you're wearing all this, it's a nightwear, it's a different thing, right? But your clothes and your appearance, everything all goes together, right? You are doing something for the skincare, but it also is part of a larger, look that you go and present yourself to the world. You see only sticking your, to the skincare category, or do you see yourself diversifying into other areas, catering to the same?
No, I think we are very, we think we can do a few things only, which we do well. So we'll kind of stick to that and be very good at it. There's a lot more that we need to do still. So there's a lot of scope there.
Yeah.
So I think we won't get into handbags and apparel anytime soon.
No, one question that I forgot to ask you is, given Marico is now one of your investors, major investor, how do you see things changing?
No, I think I just see things getting much more exciting. I think to have investors like them by your side is definitely going to be very, very helpful, and it's going to be an evolving sort of a partnership. So we're quite excited here.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, thanks, Rahul, Disha, Aarosh, and all the participants, for sharing your questions. I think it's a wonderful session. Thanks for your time. Thank you, and see you again in another session of Aarohana. So,
Thank you.